Ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube universe, what is going on with you on this Sunday afternoon? It is Sunday, April 7th, 2024, roughly 3:19 p.m. California time. I'm, of course, your always gracious host, Fallon from GoNootropics.com. Coming at you with the coffee chairs here on this Sunday afternoon. Good to see all of you coming through. This is day 2 of the fast, the water fast, day 20, no kratom. The fast is going, how I expected it to go. Day number 1, pretty you get hungry, baby. You get hungry, especially on day number 1, and today's day number 2. And thinking about, all the foods. It's like now the food has become the precious here on day number 2 fasting. You're out and about. You see the Carl's Jr. burger. You see the pizza. You see all the little preciouses that want to pull you in. So this is a nice change of, wanting kratom or wanting drugs, because now all I want is something to eat, man. Yesterday or before I began the fast, I weighed myself. I think I weighed in at 140 pounds. I'm 5'11". Today I woke up, I think I'm, what was it? 134. I'm 134 pounds as of this morning here on day number 2, which is super, super lean, man. If you look at my arms, it's like they're going to cast me in Schindler's List if I drop any more weight. So I'm hoping that the weight I lost was just kind of water weight that I lost over the night, and not just some rapid cannibalization of proteins, right? Because when you fast, your body will first burn, the sugars that you eat. Then it will go to glycogen. And then it will go to eventually your fat cells. And if you're really starving, your body will begin to cannibalize a protein. So it's quite literally the body begins to eat itself. But in like the first couple days, you're just using up your stored glycogen stores. And so, this produces the hunger. This produces a lot of cravings, man. Just really, really hungry. But starting to feel like things are beginning to stabilize. And, by the end of today and tomorrow, day number 3, the cravings will kind of vanish. And I'll break my fast tomorrow night. Well, probably early on in day 4, And then it's just about finding, what foods to eat. Right? Have you guys been down the Peat rabbit hole? I know a couple of you guys probably have. This guy Peat. There's a diet for everybody. They got the vegans. They got the keto guys. They got the carnivore guys, right? Just pure meat. They got the fruitarians. They got all these things. There's people who, it's all about balance. And there's really, you could find a study for anything to back up whatever diet you want to eat. It's like there's a diet that, shows positive effects for keto and carnivore. There's a study that will, tell you that veganism is actually pretty good for the body. And you try to dissect all this stuff, and it's very difficult just to find out what to eat. Like, I'm at the point where I just want somebody to come into my life and tell me what to eat. I'm tired of doing all this research, but it's like I can't help myself. I have to dig into Peat, this guy Peat, who, from my research into what he promotes, it's pretty balanced. He doesn't avoid the sugars. He's not scared of the sugars, which I think is smart. Because if you just look into how fasting works, Your body needs sugar. If you're not giving it sugar, it will create it in the liver from amino acids and proteins, and it will convert these amino acids and fats into sugar. Your body does need sugar. And in the absence of it, your own body will create it seemingly from nothing. It's like inside your body is like the smartest pharmacist in the world, just cooking stuff up. So the body likes sugars. So I never really agreed with, the extremely low carb stuff, just because it's like your body will make it if you don't give it sugar. And the process it has to go through to make that sugar is somewhat stressful. And stress is, I believe, a good and healthy thing in like small amounts, but long-term stress is not good at all. Like you look at endurance athletes, like people who are super skinny, and this is one reason why I think I'm not the healthiest I could be right now, is because I'm too lean. Like I could feel my bones. I'm 5'11", 134 pounds right now. I think I'd be much better off at like 150. Just kind of more weight, because you get down to a certain point and it's like you become sickly. So you can't follow the diet of like an endurance athlete, because their training and their diet is geared towards a very specific purpose, like long-term endurance training, which is extremely stressful, spikes your cortisol, spikes your adrenaline, and not something you want to do, like very long-term. It's like I look at runners, we're on the bikes every day. I look at runners, and to me, running, like I understand the runner's high. I understand the theory behind running. But I look at a lot of runners, and they all have kind of a gut. I look at a lot of even cyclists, they all have a gut. They're skinny arms, skinny legs, but they do have this gut, which is, elevated levels of cortisol and overtraining, and just overtraining way too much. So, and if you think about running, a lot of people talk about, going back to what our ancestors did, which I don't really buy that whole thing either, because it's like, well, how they lived wasn't optimal. It's like, what was the lifespan of our ancestors? Not very long. They were born and they died fairly young because the environment was stressful. And if you think about when you're running, like if you think about why our ancestors would run, it's either because they're running from a predator, which is extremely stressful, cortisol, adrenaline, etc., or they're like hunting food, So it's like when you're running, I do believe there's this ancient component that there is a part of the body that thinks it's running from a saber-toothed tiger. So you see these endurance athletes, a lot of them are like, they're like very almost anxious, almost high strung. You could tell their body has way too much cortisol, and they're like very anxious people. And a lot of the times I see the runners and the endurance athletes out and about. Here in California, everybody runs. Everybody's running over here. Everybody loves to run. But you look at them and yeah, they do have the stomach, because the cortisol creates that. It creates the gut, the fat in the gut. So if anything, longevity, I think, is tied to lowering stress as much as possible. And the unfortunate thing about the foods we eat is you can hop on something like the Peat diet or whatever, or you could hop on veganism or keto or this and that. But the problem is nowadays it's like the food has been compromised. All the food has been compromised. It's void of the nutritional value that it used to have. It's filled with preservatives, and even the single food ingredients, they're sprayed with this and that, and you can't even get raw milk anymore, right? It's like it's such a struggle to find raw milk, which is a big part of Peat's diet, I believe, is drinking the raw milk, which basically has everything the body needs. You can't find raw milk. Everything is pasteurized. Everything is just basically, you pasteurize the milk and you destroy the enzymes your body needs to break it down. You can't find it. And that's kind of what happens with a lot of these foods that we get. It's like you could have the perfect diet, but still, it's like a lot of the foods have been compromised. And there's only so much you can do in today's modern diet, in today's modern environment, unfortunately, you know. So yeah, you do what you can do, and I think food is a big part of the healthy lifestyle and being healthy. But if I had to guess, it's like maybe 30-40%, with the rest of it being just how you handle stress in general. If your environment's stressful, your job is stressful, it's like that's a constant injection of cortisol that's just really wrecking your hormones and probably creating a lot of these inflammatory conditions like diabetes and a lot of these problems they tried to blame on sugar. And at one point they were blaming fat, then they blamed sugar, then it's like no carbs, then it's like nothing but carbs. Some people do nothing but carbs. It's like to try to dissect it is really like mind numbing, and nobody's got time to read into all these papers. So you do look to the experts, but there's experts in all these fields that sound legitimate, and it's just one of those rabbit holes that you'll never climb out of if you choose to go down the health rabbit hole. And it's like constantly being anxious about what you're eating probably creates more problems than it's worth. So it's like try to do the best you can. I don't think there's one diet that's worse than the others. Yeah, in general, most of them agree that you avoid the polyunsaturated fatty acids, which the body basically has a very hard time breaking down. It just can't break them down very easily. They say it takes years to break down these types of fatty acids, so that's an inflammatory response, which who knows what kind of damage that's doing. So you avoid that. You avoid some of these things, the preservatives. And, the seed oils is the big one that pretty much everybody agrees on. So if it's like one thing you do avoid the vegetable oils, the soybean oil, all this stuff. And yeah, just keep your stress levels low. So here on day number 2, fasting, just feeling hungry, feeling like I used to feel back when I was locked up, just kind of hungry every day and couldn't wait to get out to eat some bacon or to eat something good, eat something that tastes good. So here on day number 2, cravings for food have intensified. The body is beginning to burn up all the glucose, right? And so we'll push through to day number 3 and just see where that takes us. You have to try. Some people don't recommend fasting because they say it's too stressful for the body. Fasting is too stressful for the body. Well, everybody's different. For me, fasting does seem to produce a lot of benefits. I get much more calm. This morning, I did feel the kind of adrenaline cortisol response. You feel it. Your heart rate begins to elevate in the morning, even without coffee. So that's, your body's trying to stimulate you to go find food. And it does feel pretty energizing. It's like this weird zone you're in where you're energized, but you're also like physically tired. Like you don't really want to move, but at the same time, you do have this kind of strange form of energy rushing through your veins. So it is kind of nice. And, worries and anxieties tend to drop off by day number 3. You're just not worrying about like the normal shit, like paying the bills. You're just not really worried about it because your body is in Well, it is like a survival mode, and that just surviving becomes your one and only kind of concern. And all these kind of just flaccid concerns, I call them flaccid concerns, these concerns that you worry about, but they don't really matter. Those tend to drop off dramatically, and you get into a space where you're feeling pretty good, but you do reach a point where you're excited to break the fast. And so that will be tomorrow. We'll break the fast tomorrow or on day number 4, the morning of day number 4. Because I think my last bite of food was at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I had a scoop of almond butter, which is so good. The almond butter, the peanut butter, I love that stuff. But I do believe that stuff does have higher amounts of the polyunsaturated fatty acids, which you should avoid. But you should also live too. You should also try to live. The Ray Peat stuff is good. But I've kind of pulled up some interviews and pictures of Ray Peat. And, he's not what I would call the the pinnacle of health. Granted, he's 80 years old, and rest in peace. He did a lot of good work and gave a lot of information out for free. And I think for the most part, he's a good guy, a good researcher. But, looking at him, he's not like he looks like my grandfather who smoked till he was, 80 some odd years old and just kind of drank and ate whatever he wanted. And he kind of looks like that. So it's like, you look at the results people are getting, and I guess that's the barometer, is these people promoting these longevity diets and these diets to promote health. You just kind of look at them and you ask yourself, is this a person I want to follow for health? I think Ray Peat died at 86. You could fact check me on that. That's a long life, right? But I did notice, like, in his later interviews, he was starting to forget things. He was starting to, lose the words and lose his train of thought in his 80s. So it's like, can you even avoid this stuff even if you eat the perfect foods? It's like, for whom the bell tolls, right? For whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. And these things are coming for all of us. You could minimize a lot of the really bad things, but eventually everybody dies. Who wants to live to like 120, man? I think living to 86 and dying in your sleep is kind of like a decent goal, right? You don't want to die from one of these really nasty conditions like cancer or whatever. But yeah, you just kind of do the best you can. You try the fast, you experiment, and you come up with something that works for you, right? You come up with something that just works for you. Maybe, you can't drink milk. That's fine. Maybe there's something you could do to resolve that. Maybe trying raw milk. But some people just can't do it, and they've tried and tried and tried. Their body just doesn't tolerate it for this reason or that. You could dig into it if you really want to drink it, find a way to resolve that problem. But it's like your body's so smart, your body will tell you what is good for it and what is not. And I think you could thrive on pretty much, anything, as long as you're not smashing down excess calories, fast food, and things like that. And just really lowering your stress response in any way you can. So day number 2 of the fast, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep powering through here. As always, Fallon, GoNootropics.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I will see you very soon. Peace.